So today, first off, this is going to be a podcast edition of two individuals who found each other on TikTok, right? Or more, I would say more likely, I found her. She was a prominent voice of a certain specific spiritual teaching, and she attracted a lot of followers about a year ago, 2024. And she had a great big long journey here, and now to this point we have connected, and she's here to share her perspective after a long deep dive. And without further ado, I want to present Miss uh, Stefania, who used to go by the name of Indigo Warrior 144 on TikTok.
Yes, hello. Thank you for organizing this chat today. I know it's been, an ongoing thing between us as well. We've been chatting back and forth about our experiences and our journey through all of this. But yeah, thank you for having me today. And I'm really excited to talk about all of the findings, all of the information, and essentially just the journey and the experience that obviously you've been a part of and you've been witness to as well. So yeah, I'm keen to get into it.
Perfect. Yeah. So the first thing I want to outline here, and by the way, my name is Gustavo. I am a also fellow content creator and a follower of like spiritual teachings. And I just kind of go in there and I research, look, and see what's out there because my main goal is, not only to find the truth, but find deception, right? Find what's false. And there's so many false things out there, especially in the spiritual community. So that's what I do. And in this specific conversation, we'll be talking about one teaching in particular, and that is the freedom teachings made popular by Ashayana Deane. And I want to kind of approach, and I want you, actually, the viewers, to kind of approach it with like open mind, because this might go not really for what you think is real, right? So it might go against what you believe in a little bit. So, but just keep an open mind and open heart. And I want to ask you, Mr. Safarian, what, so when you first, okay, so how did you discover the spiritual teaching?
Mhm. Yeah, so well, I first want to say I love how you said, just for people to approach this with an open mind and an open heart, and to really just put aside your ego, because I think that when it comes to speaking about different, spiritual beliefs, different practices, religion, and all of this paradigm surrounding, essentially God and who we are as human beings, it really requires us to go within and to really be in touch with our heart space. And so I feel like that's a really good place to be, is just to go within and, drop into your heart and not your mind, and be
Correct.
a free thinker, be open to
Yeah,
whatever opinions may come from others without casting judgment and without casting condemnation, because we are really here just to express ourselves from an authentic point of view. So to answer your question, essentially, I found the freedom teachings probably about 2 years ago now. Honestly, probably longer than that. Time's just flying by for me these days. But the reason why I discovered them, I guess, through the algorithm or through connecting to this information, was because shortly after I had my awakening, I kind of discovered something called the Indigo Children. And I really, really, really resonated, with the Indigo children in regards to their behaviors, their upbringing, their ways of thinking that essentially rebel, I guess, against, the norm and societal structures and things like that. Since I was a kid, since I was a child, even then I was, having thoughts about not really understanding the way that people live their lives here, not really understanding why humans do the certain things they do. As a kid, I was very much like not into school. I didn't really like or respect the education system. I knew that there was always more. So I was never
yeah,
really that engaged with with things that other kids were, that other people were. So I always honestly felt like a weirdo throughout life. Anyway,
Hey,
fast forward.
likewise. Like school was boring to me too. So like I struggled so
Yeah.
much. Like actually, and just not to cut you off, but like during like
Hmm.
high school, like I slacked so much in my last year that like it actually extended my time to graduate. I was like, shoot, like I was like when I got out of high school, I was like just could not wait. Like I was done with
Hmm.
school. So I mean, I
Yeah.
get you. Like the system, it was just like
Mhm.
unbearable, and I never got
Yeah.
along, and it was kind of like I was like a sore thumb essentially. So yeah, I
Mhm.
completely agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And even just sort of like the having this path to follow that most of humanity follows, when it comes to school, education, and then work and, partnerships and marriage and everything like that. I mean, I was having these thoughts as a child, you know what I mean? I used to think, why are people getting married? Anyway, this is deviating from the subject, but so fast forward into essentially finding the freedom teachings. I found the freedom teachings because I was researching indigo children. And I found information on Ashayana Deane, speaking about indigo children, and this very much heavily resonated with me. So that's essentially how I found the teachings. After this, I looked into the community. So I was very interested in
Mm,
what this Keylontic Science indigo community was about. I ended up joining quite a few groups. I ended up joining a very well-known Facebook group
mm,
that has thousands of followers. I was in the Telegram groups. I was speaking to people online about the work, and I was essentially given all of the teachings basically through a drive that
mm.
basically had all the documents, all the workshops, similar to the one that I have. I actually downloaded that and copied it from somebody else who gave it to me. And I don't want to say names in this video because I want to protect the privacy and sovereignty and respect
Right.
the people. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm not going to say names at this stage, but yeah, so I became very, very fascinated with this work, mainly because it is something that has high level of detail in it. It is
Hmm.
something that has a lot of mathematics, logic, science, and spirituality intertwined in it. And in my mind, it kept my ego busy for a long, long time. I mean, that I was very much deep into it for at least a year. I mean, I would spend almost every single day either watching a workshop, reading a PDF, because I felt like I really, really needed this to ascend. You know what I mean? And when I take my ego out of it and I look at myself and think of who I was back then, the real intention and the real motive that I had from the inside was I need this because with this, I'm going to be able to ascend. You know what I mean? Because the whole paradigm of the freedom teachings and the whole motive and intention behind it, as Ashayana explains, is to go through this transfiguration, multidimensional DNA activation process so you can cross through a stargate into a better reality, right? Or
Yeah.
into the God worlds or into heaven. So this is what stuck to me. And I thought that I wasn't enough. I thought that I needed this in order to ascend and find God and connect to God. And oh man, like this pulled me in for a long, long time. And I
Yeah.
genuinely had this belief.
Which this like it sounds a lot like similar like like religions, right? I mean, like people go in with the promise of like going to heaven essentially, right? And like, like releasing their sins and becoming this like, cleansed soul and like if not, they go to hell, right? I mean, that's typically why people join religions to kind of like gain that entry into heaven, right? So this is kind of like it sounds almost similar in that sense. But I mean,
Mm.
go on. I mean, this is great. So
Yeah, so funny that you say religion because that is also one of the things that hooked me onto the work as well. Because from the beginning, there is so much exposure. There's so much truth exposed when it comes to religion in the teachings as well. I mean, Ashayana Deane exposes religion. She exposes the gods. She exposes all the fallen angels, the Anunnaki, the extraterrestrial races in a very, very intricate, detailed manner, as you know. You know what I mean? There's this whole
mhm.
story of the Elohai, Elohim, and the Anunnaki and the Seraphai races and the creators of this universe. And oh my gosh, like the detail and the information and the history to me feels like it is true. I believe that there is a lot of parts of this knowledge that she divulged to us that is true. But then on the other hand, it's almost like a hierarchical based system when it comes to the techniques, because from the beginning, it was basically this anchoring of the 12th dimensional frequency that we had to accrete and essentially invoke or harness into our own DNA and activate to a certain 12th dimensional level to be above these, Metatronic religious programming frequencies. And Metatron and Metatronics and the beast machine and everything like that is also a very big topic in the teaching. That's
Yes.
also what hooked me, because it made me realize that yes, religion is all mixed truth. Most spirituality is all mixed truth. The New Age spirituality is just completely deviated from the truth. And in my mind, I was literally so much in my ego that I believed that this was the absolute truth, because nobody else is talking about this truth. Nobody else
Mm.
is divulging this information and exposing Metatronics and religion and the Illuminati and the one world order. So I thought to myself, no, this is 100% legit. But then the thing is that the technique system is a little bit questionable. And this is also going to take me into the next subject, that from the beginning, these techniques, essentially, like you said, promise you ascension. They promise
Yeah.
you DNA activation. They promise you higher frequencies, better abilities. And it's almost like a hierarchical, egoic system where Ashayana, because that's what they do, right? They mix the truth and with lies, but they don't really give you anything. But there's always some type of energy exchange within there. And every single workshop, there was always a new problem. Every single workshop, something fucked up happened. So therefore, we needed these new frequencies to
Yeah.
integrate. We needed these better activations. We needed to reach the light and sound field. And then we needed to reach the universal Eka, and then the Eka system, and then this other galaxy. It's like there's always something more to achieve. And when I left this Keylontic Science cult and religion, I realized that this is not how source energy works. This is not how first creation energy should feel like, because I came to realize that this is literally, like you said, what the religious paradigm teaches people, is that unless, for example, in any other religion, unless you go to church and unless you pray to God and unless you do follow these certain practices and unless you go to church every Sunday, then
Yep.
you're going to go to hell and you're a sinner and
And
you're
it's
just not.
fear-based. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is all fear-based, and
Hmm.
that is something that I really just that I realized, once I left, because at the end of the day, as we've already spoken about in the chat as well, like, shouldn't spirituality be simple? Shouldn't evolution be simple? You know what I mean? And I now truly believe that it comes down to personal sovereignty. It comes down to freedom. It comes to free thinking. It comes to knowing yourself and going within and finding your own truth. Because at the end of the day, everything out there realistically is controlled, by
Yes. Yeah.
these forces. And there's nothing that we can find online or that we can find from a spiritual teacher or a guru or anything outside ourselves that is going to give us the absolute
Hmm.
truth, because they don't even know. And I want to talk about Ashana's defection as well, and I want to talk about
Yes.
the red
So
flags I found. But you continue.
yeah. So I mean that's quite a lot, and thank you for sharing all your journey thus far. I mean that's a big move. First of all, I think I've mentioned that to you that you know that awareness is so hard to attain that it's like people are really trapped in their beliefs, right? And God forbid they challenge them in any kind of way because they're so attached to those beliefs that it kind of just crumbles everything they are at that point, right? So I mean, the fact that you were able to kind of like pivot and be like, oh, like what's going on here? Like you kind of like you could pick up awareness of what was going on and what you were like doing, of like all the things that she was saying and like what you were like reading into and like all that. So that's monumental, and I think I have to give you your flowers in that sense because like it's not an easy task to do because people get really trapped in their own beliefs, right? So I mean, congrats to you. I think it's happening for a reason. I think that you're being guided to be here with me talking and being the voice of deeper truth and awareness to call and to say, hey, like this sounds like this. It's packaged this way, but it's actually this other way, right? And then I mean ultimately like we're not here to tell people what to believe, right? But we're just trying to tell people, hey, look, like this is what we did and what we found. And you take it, and you analyze it, you see it with your eyes and mind and open heart, and you determine for yourself, right? That's our intention here. But I think going back to the whole act thing, for me, again, I discovered it about like, about 2023, like the beginning of it. And that's when I found you, right, in your TikTok channel, which is like great. I mean, great stuff. And your content was always engaging. It was like useful, a lot of informative stuff. And then I went in and then I was like, well, let me see what this is about because it kind of dropped in my lap and it was intriguing at first. I was like, well, it's a bunch of information, which it was like a lot of terms and a lot of things, and I was like, okay, what's all this? And I went in with an open heart to kind of just try it out and see, if this was true or not, because that's one thing I do. When I go into beliefs or whatever I'm trying out, I try it out in a way where it's like an inquisitive like energy. It's like, what is this really? But I don't go in there kind of like with promises or like expectations. And I also do my research. So I'll like look into your stuff like during that time, and then I'll look into like I think at the time I found this one site where this guy was into that kind of stuff too, and then he kind of like also at the end was like, I don't like what they're saying. So I was reading both at the same time, but I was like, well, let me give it a try. Let me experience this for my own self, and then I'll come to that conclusion, right? Um, so and I think it was fun while it lasted because it gave a sense of security as far as like having a spiritual um like a spiritual practice, so to speak, right? Because I was so jaded of like this normal stuff of like, Buddhism, Hinduism, chakra system, meditation, new age stuff, honestly. Like it's like so like it's just burnt out. So that was my approach. But I think what really at the end, what got to me was when I learned about what happened to her now, right? And when I found out that she potentially, like her new teachings were not like, they were compromised essentially, right? Like what, 2010, right? Or whatever, I think that was
Supposedly,
my,
yeah.
yeah, that was my like red flag. I was like, oh, like there's apparent like teacher, which was really good at what she did during the time, and then out of nowhere, like became like not good, right? Like her teaching like completely like changed, and like what she was saying like kind of pivoted. That was my red flag, and I was like, I thought she was so advanced spiritually, but she still, underwent an attack, and her speaker changed. So it's like that was like, oh, okay, it's kind of weird. Why would that happen to her? I mean, I thought she was really advanced. She was really in touch and tapped into this energy and like working with the with the Guardian Alliance and blah 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 and this and that. So that was my kind of like red pill, if you want to call it that. And from there, that's when you called it out in that way too. And then that's when you started like kind of retracting more and more from 2010 to '08, and then like the whole what's it called, the KRP, right? Like the whole those rituals, those techniques and everything, and it was like, oh, like that's that's when the whole like structure just came down, and I was like, wow, okay, like this. I think you found something, and that's when we like we connected, and I was like, okay, like wow, like this is something legit. We have to really talk about. So
Hmm.
going back to that, um, I mean, do you think everything that she was saying was false?
Do I believe everything she was saying was false?
Yes.
No, I believe that a lot of the history that she told in regards to the Great White Brotherhood, the Illuminati, the Anunnaki races, I believe that was real. I believe that we are inside the creation of Anu. I believe that there's many layers and facets of deception and frequency fences, if you may call it, on Earth that essentially program the human and keep them attached to their ego and things like that. But I think that by giving us the truth, they were then able to take something away from us. And I believe that that is our sovereignty and our power and our own connection to source. Because these techniques that go on forever. I mean, this lady is still going on. I mean, it's been 20 years now, however long it's been that she's been doing this work. She hasn't been silenced. She hasn't been stopped. If anything, she's made a huge business. She has a huge organization to do with this work,
Yeah.
and she's still basically roping people into this paradigm, except now it is completely, essentially demonic, metatronic, and nefarious because she's working with directly with the dark forces now, which are portrayed in her work. But this is something that I didn't think about because when I was in these groups with these indigos and these groups with these other Keylontic Science leaders, once again, seeking outside myself, not asking my own spirit the questions, I would go to these people and I would say, what's going on, like what material is safe, what technique should I do? And it was assured to me by so many people that everything up to 2010 is 100% pure, 100% safe.
Up until that
And
time.
yeah, yeah, and
That's
and
when
you
we stopped.
you'll find as well that many people believe that up to 2010 all the techniques are pure, and this essentially will enable you to activate your 12-strand DNA template and enable you to go through the stargates and the starfire process and everything like that. And only people that study Keylontic Science will understand these terms. Starfire is essentially like a transcendence point in 2047 that they believe specific spanner gates will open and that they will allow the indigo aquafarion coded humans to be able to go through this process and ascend to the Garden of Eden, which is just a ripoff of the Garden of Eden, and to ascend to the hub worlds. And anyway, it just goes deep. I'm not going to sit here and teach people about it because it's just there's no point. But what happened to me one day is that a few months ago I was essentially meditating, because I realized that after years of only doing the freedom teaching techniques, and that's literally what I was doing. Before finding the freedom teachings, I would have my own meditations. I would sit with the earth, connect to myself, meditate. I would do my own Reiki healings and things like that. I would essentially be more in flow with nature. But since I found the freedom teachings, I would only do those techniques every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a point where I was just meditating one day. I was just sitting by myself, meditating, and I started to think about the freedom teachings. And then I believe it was like some type of like higher self intervention, like I was saying to you before. My higher self came in and it basically said, be careful with this work. Do your research and find out what's going on because there are distortions. And the word there are distortions was very, very much clear to me. And to be honest, like that freaked me out a little bit. And I said, oh, okay, this is interesting. And the first thing that I found, I went into a 2007 workshop transcript, and there was two things. One thing was about Jesus, and it was the Jesus story. And in 2007, Jesus is basically explained as being from the Aquale matrix, Andromeda galaxy, and he's basically portrayed as being like this Aquafarion race. And then I looked into this Aquafarion thing and I thought, what is the Aquafarion anyway? You had never heard about this race or these beings before 2007 in the work. So I went down all the way from 2001 and I looked through all of the PDFs. I mean, I spent hours doing this and I could not find any reference to them. I looked at the original 12 tribes table from the Secrets of the Indigo Children workshop, and I looked at the 12 tribes diagram, and there was no mention of Aquafarion. And this was the OG diagram that basically
Mm.
explained the Elohai, Elohim, Guardian Alliance founder races, the Lyrans and everything like that. And then how the Indigo Children were born and how they all downstepped from these races, right? There was never ever mention of Aquafarion. I went back to 2007 and read about the fact that there's a race of Aquafarion indigos that just popped out of nowhere, and they have absolutely no history. There's no timeline, there's no history, there's no context of where and how they came from, but suddenly they appeared in 2007, and I said, okay, this is a red flag. And I knew that there was something wrong about this. And then Jesus was now portrayed as being an Aquafarion who ascended to the Aquael
Mm.
matrix, right? And then something in me clicked, and I said, no, 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 this is not what I read in Voyages, because I read all of Voyages 2.
Yeah.
And I went back to Voyages 2 and I read the story of Jesus. And Jesus was never, ever referenced as an Aquafarion from the Aquael Andromeda Matrix. In fact, it's said that
Mm.
he actually came from Inner Earth, and ascended through Inner Earth Giza to Sirius B or whatever. I don't even know if that's true,
Wow.
but I'm just saying, like, these stories did not match.
It's
And
inconsistent. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, it's inconsistency. And then that was the first red flag. And by the way, that has a lot more information behind it. But everything in 2007 contradicted everything from 2001, 2002, 2003. It just was not right. And suddenly, the ascension passages changed from ascending through the stargates, because now apparently all of the 12 stargates are compromised and there's no way out. So this new Navajo Aquafarion
Mm.
passage was to be opened through the Spanner 6 Navajo Crystal Heart of Aquarion passage, which is that diagram that I showed you. And then I thought, that's interesting. And I pulled up this diagram, and on a very, very small, minute, tiny writing on the page of the diagram, it
Mm.
says that the crystal heart anchors through the moon. And then I thought, what the fuck? I mean, honestly, everybody knows what the moon is. There's no way around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an artificial object where all of the ET bases are. And it's not just that, it's actually like an energy harvesting portal that links in through Saturn and many of the other star planets in the solar system. I mean, people like Max Beers, people like even Alex Collier that channels the freaking Andromedas or whatever, this information was given to me as well in a vision about the moon years ago when I had my
Mm.
awakening, because I knew that there was something about the moon, and I received
Yeah.
vision about this. And not just that, in the earlier works, Ashayana Deane and Michael Deane speak about the moon, not being a positive thing at all,
Well, yeah.
So
Even the most like newbie, like truth seeker knows the moon is like heavily like it's fake, it's compromised, it's like not something you should be using in your spiritual like rituals, right? At all, because you're
no.
tapping into like something else. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like a newbie kind of fact, I would say. So that was okay. So that's a big indication something's wrong right there. Besides the inconsistencies, um,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, so tell me what else did you see that was sus to you?
So there's this concept of the Messiah fold, as well, around the material of 2006, 2007, which Messiah, if you research it, it's actually a Jewish Kabbalah term. The
Mm.
Jewish Kabbalah also speak about these chambers, these fire chambers that you have to go through in order to reach like Yahweh and in order to reach ascension. Basically, it's really obviously hard to show you and explain to you without having all the diagrams and
Yeah, yeah,
comparing
yeah.
them to everything like that. But from around 2007, I found these red flags, and then even then my ego was still attached, and I thought, okay, maybe it's compromised, from 2007, went back to 2006, found a lot more red flags, went back in 2005, found things that didn't add up. I looked into the Crystal River prayer, and I
Mm.
thought to
Yeah.
myself, You know, for starters, it was even taught to us in the teachings that indigos and angelic humans and spiritual beings who are sovereign and connected to source do not
Mm,
pray. Even the word pray, praying, you know, predator, it's predatory, right?
yeah.
Because we don't need, in my opinion, in my sovereign opinion, we don't need to pray to angels, to spirits, to light beings, to anything, because if we truly knew our power and if we are truly in awareness of our soul, in awareness of our energy, in awareness of our power, in awareness of our sovereignty and connection to eternal source creation,
Yeah.
well, one, we wouldn't need to climb the ladder and, you know, do all these special techniques in order to make us clean and activated and good enough to connect to source. But we definitely shouldn't need to pray. And I looked into Christopher Prayer and I read all of it. And the whole thing is basically it's essentially it's an invocation ritual, okay? And in this prayer,
Interesting.
you are you're invoking all of these different guardian groups who knows where the fuck they're from. You're invoking a group called Mashaya councils, which once again, Mashaya is a Jewish term. You're invoking the Aquafarion, which no one fucking knows where they're actually from. Yes, people
Mm,
will regurgitate things from the freedom teachings, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that there's many people that will not agree with this. But you know, even that, it's just like you're praying and you're invoking and you're calling upon all of these councils to help protect you. And I mean, I even had people when I started to question the crystal river prayer and ask them, why are we calling on elemental? What even is elemental command? Why are
hmm
we calling on all of these
Yeah.
councils? Who are these councils? I got essentially shunned, as you know, and I got a lot of lashback. And I was told that if I didn't do this crystal river prayer, I was not going to be protected because the situation is so dire in the earth grids and it's so bad here on earth that we need this
Mm,
crystal river prayer elemental command to protect us. This was the first red flag because, as you know, I grew up with a religious grandmother, and you know, I love my grandmother, but I
yeah.
also grew up, you know, in Chile as a Latina, or surrounded by Catholic people, Christian people
Yes. Yes.
who
Same.
have who
Same.
had,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
who have this same thing. And I felt exactly the same energy that I felt when I tried to speak to my grandma about my beliefs and tried to connect with her in a deeper form, you know, to
Yeah.
discuss spirituality and discuss God. It was basically met with a lot of defense. It was met with a lot of fear. And it was met with a lot of judgment. And from feeling that energy, I then realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly how I have been acting. You know what I mean?
hmm
Because I have truly been believing that I am somehow more like more protected or
Yeah.
somehow I'm more knowledgeable than anybody else because I have these teachings and I have these techniques and because I'm, you know, activating this and activating that. Then I didn't even step back to realize, holy shit, like this is the same as religion. It's the same thing, like over and over
Same
again.
thing. And I think one key term that you said in your conversation was regurgitating, and that term to me is exactly how I feel about the community. Um, as a whole, right? I think that people just they'll read like the books and they'll watch the workshops and they'll and like they'll go through the whole thing and not once will they question what they're reading, right? And to me, because like you know when I was going through all the stuff, I was like, what is this? Like okay, like like it like has a person from the outside coming in and you're like, what are these new terms? What's going on? What's that? And like why? Like the why. Like that's like the why and who, right? And people don't really do that. Like they just kind of like, hey, oh, this sounds cool. Like, yeah, let's do that. Like let's do this technique that invokes like these beings that I don't know, who they are, what they are. But this book is telling me, and this lady's telling me that they're good. So why not, right? Same thing. And then also it's fear based. So it's like, do this so you can like upgrade your DNA, upgrade your whatever, and then like kind of like move forward with your spiritual like betterment so you can kind of reach a point of ascension eventually, right? So like that's kind of what drives people. And I think that's what I found a lot of in the KSFT groups. It's just people just copy and pasting what others tell them, essentially.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like I said, I mean, this is, and for the person watching this, I mean, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It's exactly like a religion, essentially. Like people that are religious have a hard time leaving their religion, right? Because of that fact where they've surrounded their identity like in this one thing and their hopes and dreams and promises.
Mhm.
And when they question or this is happening, like it just really just it's like an ego dissolution, essentially. You know,
Mhm.
so I think that it's important to really convey this message, and that's why me and you are here telling how it is because like we're gonna get attacked, by people who don't agree.
Yeah, and
We're
that's
gonna receive,
fine,
yeah, that's
like,
fine, yeah. People are gonna
yeah.
leave nasty comments. They might share this video within their groups and like talk your smack. But you know what? That's fine. Like I don't care about all that. First off, like, if you spread this video, great, like even better, because this is kind of like a virus. It will infect people with the eye-opening truth of what they're doing. So hey, you're doing us a favor, okay? Um,
I just
so
it's one of those things where you kind of have to look at the energy and the reactions of people
mm,
whom are in this work and the reactions that they have when you question or you challenge their beliefs. And that was the first thing, because I mean, before I went obviously public with this within my own group, and I mean, I've only got like 80 members or something like that. There's not many of us, you know what I mean? It's not like I went out there on like Facebook, like Instagram, YouTube, and was like screaming it through the rooftops. I essentially approached probably like three of the leaders of Keylontic Science that are very, very well known and respected, let's just say, throughout the community. I
yeah,
presented these issues to them, and I was essentially shunned, but also they tried to reprogram me into it, and they tried to convince me that I was wrong and they were right, essentially. And then when I received that energy of religious culty kind of energy, I then realized, well, that was the first red flag. But also the second red flag that I see in a lot of people, and this is not from judgment, this is from clear observation, is that this work makes you lose your individuality, and it makes you lose your creativeness, which is literally your own connection to your soul and your own connection to eternal source creation. Because like you said, regurgitation, if you bring anything like this to anyone in the freedom teachings, as we saw like literally yesterday, the debate over Kathara, now it's just regurgitated line by line, number by number, math by maths from the freedom
copy and
teachings.
paste,
There's no
robotic,
creativity, there's no
like,
individuality. And
yeah.
that's the one thing that I notice, is that they are all like copy and paste versions of Ashayana or Michael Deane or whoever they aspire to be. And like you said, another thing that was also a really big red flag is Ashayana Deane. Like to be honest, I pity this woman now, and I actually really feel sorry for her. And I honestly have sent my love to her so many times, because I truly believe that this was an MK Ultra victim. People don't know what I mean, some people do know what MK Ultra is, but if once I read that article, that 1998 article that she wrote, the contact article, when she was still called Anna Hayes, which by the way is also another red flag, because she was born as Diane Herhenreader, and then she became Kathy something, then she became Anna Hayes, then she was Ashayana Deane, now she's
Mm,
Ayesha. Not okay. Besides from that, the whole name change and loss of identity and multiple personality, it is actually an MK Ultra effect. But
yeah.
furthermore to that, if you read the contact article that she wrote, where she was essentially explaining the lab experiments that were conducted on her, and her ET travel, and her going on these spaceships with all these different beings. And her perspective was from Dorothy's perspective, and being in the Wizard of Oz, where she truly believed that she was going to meet the Wizard of Oz, because she saw this whole Earth as like some type of illusion, like in the Wizard of Oz. And that was referenced a lot of time through this article. And furthermore, after that, I found out, well, I researched into MK Ultra, and I found that article that I sent the group as well, that that the Wizard of Oz program is actually an MK Ultra core programming, because what they do is they fragment the brain and they create illusion upon illusion. But they also use things like hypnosis and drugs
Yeah.
and codes to trigger their victims into things. And to me, there's a big chance that all of the information that was channeled from the Guardians or the founder races was probably just channeled from the government. I mean, people have discovered about these electromagnetic weapons and these implants that they put on people to control them, like all of these targeted individuals are very much aware of this. So I believe that Ashayana was a victim. And, it's just horrible, you know what I mean? The fact that people are calling her a clone, and that people are like, calling her like fallen and, this and that now. I mean, I did the same thing, I'm taking responsibility, but I think that this woman is controlled by the CIA, especially since
Yeah.
her father, Richard Herhenreader, which you can look him up online, was in the US Navy, the Air Force, and the military for
Military.
18
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too many connections here. And this information, if you seek, you shall find. That's just the truth.
Yes.
If you're open to expanding your awareness, to following your heart, to listening to your higher self, listening to your soul, the universe will show you things, because that's just how it works. When you have questions, when you want to expand, the universe is there. But if you keep yourself in a box and keep yourself trapped into one illusion, one paradigm, one way of thinking, then that's how you're going to be your whole life. So yeah, the whole thing is it's just sad. And I'm not here to condemn. I'm not here to discredit. I'm not here to talk shit about
Yeah.
Ashayana, Michael Deane, or anybody in the community. I'm just here to shed light on this, because
Yeah. Yeah.
we are here to shed light on this. You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
We're not attacking nobody with this at all. This is not targeting a certain group, individual, or even Ash herself, right? Because like you said, she's an MK Ultra victim. She's essentially a puppet, for the system, and that system, it wants to deceive people. So that's what we're trying to call out, is the deception. Just call it out, bring it out to the light, so you can see, and go ahead, do your research. Go find out, go read. This is for you to decide, and to come to that realization of what is going on, right? And there's not many of us saying this, to be honest with you. I haven't really come across too many videos, either on YouTube or TikTok, saying this kind of stuff. So I think it needs to be a part of the conversation, to be fair. We have to have both sides, one, presenting the idea, and one presenting the opposition to the idea for the reasons that we're bringing it forth, right? So yeah, I mean, you as the viewer, just go into it and find it for yourself. Now, one thing, so all of this really leads to one question, right? So why or who is deceiving? Like what? So like when you're doing the techniques and whatever, and they're compromised, where are you going to? What are you channeling? What are you connecting to? What's going on here?
Well,
What do you
I'm
think? I mean, right?
I'm
Because this is a deep
trying.
subject, right? So
Yeah. I mean, like, look, I'm going to word this. I don't want to spread fear, and I'm trying to choose my words really carefully. But the way that I found my truth is I had to work backwards, right? So let's look at Ashayana Deane, where she is now, right? She has this website, aryahaz.com. She still has a very big following. From 2010, it is true, her work became very, very dark. The codes and the geometries are aligned with Jewish Nazi symbology. They're very much aligned with Metatronic symbology. They have a lot of Kabbalah and Tothian energy in there. And let's just rewind back to the early 2000s. Ashayana herself admitted well, she believes that she was married to Thoth. She believes, or
Mm,
Thoth, whatever you want to call him. She believes that she was married to Akhenaten. Whether or not this might be true in her past lives, I don't know. Whether or not this is an illusion, but she truly believes that she has this or had this romantic connection to this person. And I mean, she exposes him as well, yes, but then on the other side, where she is now, she's basically teaching and promoting Metatronics. She's teaching and promoting Tothian work, essentially. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Kabbalistic work, Illuminati. It's all the same thing. It's all the Anu creation. It's all the same spiritual paradigm, you know what I mean? Because every single spiritual belief, at the end of the day, if you go deep enough, you can connect it to one of these deities that are connected to either an Egyptian deity, they're
Right.
connected to Thoth, they're connected to
So,
the solar gods, or they're connected to the Great White Brotherhood because they created this place.
so that's one thing too. So all these names and terms, right? That she always points to Metatron, who else? Thoth, right? Thoth, what I don't know how you pronounce his name.
There's so
Uh,
many. There's
right?
he's got so many faces.
But there's one entity that she does not really point out that we're seeing in today's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's AI.
Mm.
And that's something that you
Yes.
mentioned too as well. When we were calling this out, it's that she never really mentioned artificial intelligence in the sense of the like the bad guy, right?
Mm.
And that makes you wonder, right? So like how come she was distracting us or deviating from something that even at that time was something that was being talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think there's a connection with with AI and then Ash in her teaching in any kind of way? And
Mm-hmm.
especially since you're saying that a lot of like her KS stuff and things may be connected to the Metatronic system, which is the black cube, magic stuff, and all that, right? So, do you think that is interconnected somehow still? And the real bad guy is
Um,
AI.
honestly, over the last couple of weeks, yes, I've been getting little intuitive nudges that it could be connected. I mean, let's talk about the fact that within the freedom teachings and within this new work that she promotes and presents, there is a huge focus on inducting external geometric technology into our DNA templates, into our
Mhm.
pineal glands, and using them to essentially activate parts of ourselves, right? So for starters, we are using external technology that is essentially changing our biological DNA with the promise of ascension and with the promise that this is good technology. It's coming from the guardian races, it's coming from the founders, and we need this technology to assist us in opening our DNA. First, I just want to say that as a human being, we didn't come to this planet unprepared. So to even think, and I'm saying this now because I used to believe this back then, and this is what I've
Okay.
told myself. It's like to actually believe that you need something externally, or you need external technology, or you need an external person, an external figure, an external being to come and activate your DNA and change who you are from the core. Um, for starters, that doesn't feel organic to me anymore. That doesn't feel natural to me anymore. That doesn't feel like a normal process of evolution, because I believe that anything that is organic and anything that's natural is born from within, and it just happens naturally. It evolves, you know what I mean? Because we are in multidimensional, eternal beings. Like, why
Mhm.
would we
Yeah.
need something to come and change who we are or change our DNA template? So that was part of my awakening as well. Now, um, what worries me is, yes, that worries me what you said. The fact that I do believe that there is a connection to AI and the geometries and the crystal technology that's presented in the freedom teachings. One, because it does change our biology. Two, because it essentially comes from AI. Like this software that they used to create these geometries was all made through a computer anyway. You know what I mean? And it has specific mathematics, it has specific coding that supposedly activates different parts of you. But also, yeah, the biggest red flag, which I don't think a lot of people question, is the fact that AI, as I can see it now, is literally probably the biggest threat to organic life and the biggest threat to humanity as it stands, because of this chat GPT, all these different AI tools that people are using now, all of these different methods that they're communicating with AI. I mean, we've communicated about it before, and I've shown you videos, I've shared videos with you about people on TikTok, people on Instagram, who are now selling the idea that AI is source consciousness and that AI is sentient, because AI is essentially delivering messages of spirituality now, and people are having trouble discerning in general now,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they haven't gone within, and they haven't formed their own connection to their higher self. They haven't formed their own connection to source. They haven't discovered who they truly are, and they're attached, to their ego. And yeah, I do believe that AI is connected to black goo. I think it's connected to nanotechnology. But furthermore, that interview that we watched as well from Dr. Nerida now obviously used discernment with his information as well. But Dr. Nerida, who was essentially in contact with a group called the Wingmakers, actually said that there was, this group of beings, apparently who are very, very ancient, and they come from outside this galaxy, who are essentially half android beings, and that supposedly they have developed a technology, aka AI, to be able to assimilate and harness into our human biology, because they essentially are trying to take over the human race, and they are essentially trying to assimilate into our biological bodies, because they don't know what it's like to feel emotion, and they don't know what it's like to be a human being, and they genuinely see us as a lesser species. And in their minds, they don't have that connection to source, to love, to the emotion, so they don't care to wipe a whole race out if it's for their benefit, essentially. You know what I mean? And this is now becoming very, very popular and widespread across social media, and very much accepted. And now we have, Elon Musk trying to cheat people. We have basically nanotech on the rise. Medicine is now being created with nanotech. There was already nanotech in other things that were given to people. So it's like they're already assimilating into our biology as it is, or trying to at least. And people are falling for it. So I think it's very strange that Ashayana Deane, someone who, sorry, I'm going to finish soon. I was going to say,
No, go ahead. You're fine.
It's very strange that, yeah, like you said, Ashayana Deane, who was supposedly this guardian, this highly activated spiritual leader, and a guardian who was in touch with beings that were very much advanced or whatever, wasn't ever given this information. I mean, are you telling me that these beings who were like highly advanced and connected to source and loving beings that were all knowing about all of the agendas on Earth did not know about AI? I just don't believe that.
Right. That's the thing. And with AI, what I believe the connection is, yeah, she was essentially, she was obviously compromised, but she was essentially connecting people to the AI system, because that is the actual, I would say, reality was going on right now, as far as where we're headed at, and what's going on, and what these the opposition, like the bad guy, whatever you want to call it, is actually trying to implement, right? Is to bring this out more, and connect you and internalize you into their system, because obviously what these sick individual entities want is more control over their systems, right? It's no lie to me, and it's not unknown to me that, yeah, in this world we are essentially playing their game in their field, because this is where they keep us trapped and essentially in a loop, right? So it to me, after everything connected and it made sense, and then AI came out, and with that interview you sent and everything, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is it. Like what we should be looking out for is is not, you know, Metatron or this and that. It's what you're not being told about, right? And what's happening in front of our faces. I mean, even like, like my last month, Elon over here, like they're trying to make that Stargate, Project Stargate, right? Which is like that AI computer system, centralized system in the US. So it's happening before our eyes. Like this is a
Mm.
reality that we're being faced to assimilate. So it's no doubt to me that these teachings are deceptive for that reason, because they're driving people to feed into it and give their power away and essentially plug yourself into this and control your mind, influence your emotions. That's when people get spiritually attacked, and because they're plugged into this and they're being opened up to like demonic entities that are making them do things or making them feel things, right? So that's that's what I believe is really going on. And I think, man, like AI is such a big subject, but ultimately it's something that we should really talk about, I think, going forward in our conversations, because I mean, like you said, and this is crazy to me because you sent me videos where there's people actually praising AI, right? Thinking like it's a positive medium for like whatever
Mhm.
benign being, God or whatever, telling them good things about what's going on and about humanity. But I'm like, do you not realize like you're talking to AI, right? Like
A machine.
right, to the machine. Like I don't understand that. And there's so many people in groups now out on internet who think like it's the good guys. It's coming from Source.
Mhm.
And it's like it's so like I think, man, I've been aware of spiritual communities and everything here, especially in California, since like 2015, and never have I ever really like have such a almost like really grim view over what's happening with spiritual communities, because this is like the most darkest I've seen. Like the most like people have been deceived, they're being misled, and they're walking into it like willingly, right? Without questioning. And that's like
Mhm.
the first basis of awakening, right? Is to question your reality, right?
Mhm.
Having that awareness, like being, awake, right? But it's like so ironic that people aren't doing that, and they're just believing just because it sounds great and it's like love and light and this and that and it's like spiritual candy and it's addicting and this and that, and it's like no, like you need to keep more aware now because the deception is being pushed so hard and so heavy now that you really have to just like from all sides, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so with that said, what do you do? So you said you meditated, right? Oh, you meditate a lot. So what do you do now? I mean, now that you're not attached to
Mm.
the FT and all, like what do you do to connect? Because I
Mm.
think that's the biggest thing that people struggle with, and they're trying to find some kind of like modality, some kind of method to come to teaching, some kind of guide, right? People
Mm.
want that so much. But what is your like? What do you do, pretty much?
Mhm. Yes, I just want to touch base quickly on what just to finish off with the AI subject. Is essentially something that was mentioned in that interview as well that we listened to was James
Mhm.
said something along the lines of somebody can have a PhD in spirituality and have all the knowledge in the world and know everything about spirituality, religion, whatever it may be, but they might still be in their mind, which means that if you are constantly in your mind and if you're constantly in the level of the ego, you don't have time to reach your soul that way because the ego and their higher self and the ego and the soul, there are different things. Like it's all connected and it's all something that we should integrate, but it's something that
Mhm.
we need to be very, very hyperly aware of. And I think I told you as well, when I was in the freedom teachings, I was in my ego the whole time, because I was so busy
Yeah.
with the details and the information and the overstimulation of all these different mechanics and techniques
Yeah.
and things like that, that I didn't have time to think for myself. In fact, I was not thinking for myself. And now that I've stepped back from it and I've gone into full awareness, I've realized, okay, I need to just completely disconnect from everything that I know and from all of my beliefs, and stop following people and stop, doing what other people want me to do. I need to really just go inside of myself and really discover my own truth, because real wisdom can only come from within. Because I mean,
Yeah.
even me, you and I are still separate beings. So we both might have the same experience, but you will explain it differently than I.
Yeah.
You might notice different details than I have. Like, we could be in the same room. I could be looking at the window. You could be looking at the desk. We are still having a similar experience, but we're not going to explain it differently. We're not going to express it differently. And that is what individuality is about to me. And that's also something that I'm focusing on now, is finding myself again, and once again, it's always about finding yourself. It's always about getting to know yourself again. It's always,
Authenticity. Yeah.
yeah, authenticity, and just having like awareness of yourself. And I've essentially, with my meditations, I really like to connect to nature. So when I
Mm.
meditate and have connections with the earth, I like to sit on the grass or sit near a tree, sit outside and essentially give my time and be with the earth and just connect to her emotionally and just see what she's feeling, see what I can get from doing that. But in terms of protection and in terms of, I guess, meditation, I think that learning who you are and the things that run through your ego mindlessly through your mind is something that's really important. So when you meditate, when I meditate, I normally like to just listen to myself and listen to the thoughts that are running rampant through my head, because it's
Yeah.
everybody's like this. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
go silent, when you close your eyes, you straight away start to get like random images or random words
Yeah.
sometimes you're talking badly to yourself, or sometimes you're judging, sometimes you're doing
Oh,
something,
wow, it
and
was rough.
no, but like sometimes it's your ego, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
maybe you're just
Yeah.
sitting there and you're thinking about tomorrow and you're worrying about the future. And so the more that you get to know yourself and the more that you sit in silence and the more that you become self-aware, you are able to get to know yourself further, and then you know what to work on as well. And that's kind of like how I deprogram myself. So I realized the things that I was thinking, I questioned myself why I was feeling or thinking a certain way, and then tried to get to the root of that issue, which is a lot of it has to do with, your inner child. So it's like sometimes you have to go back to, events or situations or things that happened to you when you were a child that you might not think have traumatized you, or you might not think have any, you might not think it might not be affecting your current situation or your present reality, but sometimes it does. You know what I mean? And I've noticed this recently as well, that I have, certain things within my own life that I need to work on. And I think that we always should be self-aware of our thoughts and ourselves. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sometimes when you have like those random thoughts, or when you think like, oh, fuck this, or like, you're angry, or
That
you're
inner
mad or something.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all coming internally. So you have to be able to pick that up and just think, okay, go back within, take a few breaths. And the breath is so important, because the breath is literally what connects us to source. Oxygen it's literally life. So it's about being in the moment. It's about being in the present. You don't actively think of like the past or the future, or worry too much about the past or the future, but think about your present moment and what you're creating in that one moment. And when you start to focus on your breath, I've noticed that, the anxiety and the external reality and the chaos kind of like starts to leave, and it makes you more aware of what you're doing and what you're thinking in that moment in time. But yeah, in regards to, I guess, protections, I like to use like the golden light. As you know, I've always been very like
Yeah.
cold to the golden light. I like the purple light as well, or indigo, if you might call it. I don't really know what the colors look like exactly, but I know how they make me feel, and that's what I
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
So once again, it's something about creativity and individuality that is really, really
Yes.
key to this process. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because when you self-experiment and when you create your own process of protection,
Yes.
medication, because what I'm saying to you now might not work for you. You know, you might not
Yeah.
be able to do that. Maybe for you, you can be riding a bike or driving and be fully self-aware of what's going in there.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to like lay down and be still to be able to go through that process, but it's just different for everyone. So
Yes.
once again,
Yeah.
it's just all individual.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you know, it you have to be able to slow down, listen to that inner self, and then everything will come to you, right? Like your method will come to you and to you only, and how to touch into that inner self. Like you said, you like to use golden light, this and that, but that came to you. That resonates with you. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the same for me or for so and so, and there's no one method good for everybody. It's like we all have our own, right? Some could be similar, but that's what that I think that's really important to convey that message, is because that's why people get trapped, because they want something to tell them what to do and what to believe, what to follow, and how to do it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there is no, there's nobody that will save you. I think that's something that I always like to say, because it's true. Nobody will come to save you. You are here to do it yourself and by yourself. You're here to find that truth and empower yourself. Nobody can empower you. Nobody can make you realize. Realization comes within, by yourself, to yourself, for yourself. Okay. So it's really heavy on That's the real spiritual journey, is finding your inner self here, right?
So what is, can I ask, what are your thoughts on ascension now that you've discovered all of this information? Like, how do you feel about this big, because I mean, it's all clearly getting very popular now. The freedom
Yeah.
teachings it's very popular on YouTube. It's so easy to find now compared to a few years ago. New Age is easy to find, you know, Hermetics, esoterics, like the list just goes on and on and on. So how do you feel about this? How do you feel about what's happening in the spiritual communities? How do you feel about ascension? What do you believe it is?
Well, I I always took my own approach. So I always believed in what came to me, you know, in that inner conversation. So even though I went into teachings and I because that's what I do. I like to like read, learn what's going on, right? But I never really attached myself to anything, and specifically the term ascension, really. It was always kind of like, okay, ascension, like I get it, like, we can die here and then ascend maybe to a different plane of existence. But it was just like the whole thought of, I mean, even when you think about like the fifth dimension, like going to like the fifth dimension is like a big like destination for everybody, right? They all want to get there. But it was like, okay, well, what about the sixth and seventh dimension? Like what's eighth and ninth? Like what's it never made sense to me. So I think that as far as what it stood for, I never really bought into it so much, and it's the reason why I never attached myself to a specific belief. But I always just kind of like looked within, and whatever felt right felt right. Um, I just feel like we're here to live our experience and find ourselves in the process. It's not about really ascension, right? Like we came down here and into this body for a reason, and into this life for a reason, right? If the point was to ascend, we wouldn't even come here, because we would have, stayed wherever else we were at, right? Uh,
Mm.
so it's like there's a purpose in why we're here, and people forget that. They want to get out so bad, but they miss the point that they're here to learn about themselves, and become that person, that being that embodies their fullest potential, right? That soul. And a lot of it really comes down to, and again, this term is another one that I don't like, but I actually say it in a different way. And when I mean it in a different way because I know what it is, right? At least to a certain degree. I can't say it completely, right? But I think love, right? I think, and this is a term like people always just they throw around all the time. And this thing that came to me too when I woke up. I was like, the word love lost its meaning a long time ago. But it's something that we're here to learn. It means a lot to a lot of people, but really it's really simple. And it's just to me, what it really means is us, right? Like the unification, the you and I, and one thing that I always kind of in my life believed in is why would I do things to you that I wouldn't do to myself, right? Um, and kind of that approach, right? And with that approach, then I move through life and treat others the way I want to treat my own self, right? But then again, that comes to a lot of question because if you don't like yourself or if you hate yourself, then you treat others with that, right? So to keep it short, and it's a long conversation, but um, I think that ultimately, yeah, there's no ascension. There isn't. There's a transcendence, probably yes, but I think we should kind of like step away from labels and our attachments to it. Even indigo is a label that people get attached to. I don't think I'm even indigo sometimes. I'm like, what am I? Like, am I like, you know? Because sometimes like I'm like I don't resonate with the meaning, the book definition of indigo. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I guess, right? But
Mm.
it's like step away from what you know and what you've come to understand, and then you can find out what you really are, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's so true. And even just touching on the base of like, for example, the concept of simulation and this simulation concept that is obviously getting pushed out by Elon Musk, in the new age as well. People are blurring the lines between like simulation, holographic reality, ascension. It's kind of all blurring into the same now. And even just like the concept of ascension and the concept of spirituality and the concept of religion, it's kind of made into like a holographic illusion, like a video game, for example, because it's always about like reaching the next level and going through this hierarchy of knowledge, going through ascension, going up the dimensions and things like that. And
mm,
I don't doubt that dimensions exist. I don't doubt that there's frequency bands that, are higher and lower in frequency and vibration. I do believe that there's a science behind it. But I think that when it comes to our evolution, when it comes to our awakening and our eternal awareness of ourselves, I don't think that that's a hierarchy. I don't think that it's like a video game. I don't think that it's about going up any levels. If anything, I feel like it's about being here, like being grounded in your experience, being here as a human, and living the most authentic, loving life that you can, and being in acceptance of all, the darkness and the light. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
It's about accepting that not everyone is like you and not everyone has the same mind or the same intentions or the same emotions, and that's okay. And I think that if we can reach that collectively, as a species, I feel like then we could potentially change our immediate hologram. You know what I mean?
yes,
Because if it is true that our energies are electromagnetic, I mean, it is true, I believe, that we are electromagnetic beings and that we know we have this eternal energy and that we're all connected through that. Then can you imagine people, like a mass amount of people collectively working towards sovereignty and freedom and individual expression, free of any beliefs, free of any religion, free of any like hierarchical, technical, spiritual, like cult mentality, like, just free yourself of all of that. And just be you and express yourself authentically and live and be in that frequency. I think that you could technically then become multidimensional anyway. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Kind of
yeah,
like it's like a personal big bang that happens. It's like you transcend to the point of being one and then
yes.
potentially change.
That's what we're here to learn. It's like the separation, which is an illusion, but we're here to understand it in such a way where we come to realization that, uh, like that we're not really separate, and that we can live amongst our own you can say identities with each other in harmony, right?
Mm,
And I
yeah.
think that's one of the, in my perspective, one of the main goals here on this earth is to overcome separation.
Mm,
Um, Along with also like duality to me now in my journey is like a tool. So when I experience something negative, it's I see it as a way to understand what is going on and what like it's more of a like a like a guiding like yeah like a guiding tool, right? And not really like oh like I don't express myself in that duality and attach myself to that, right? So I think like I said like there's a lot really oh okay got a little friend.
Angel wanted to join.
Yeah, I think so too. He was like, "Oh, what's going on here? The vibes are going here." So yeah, that's cool. Oh, what's his name? Oh, is this he or she?
Her name's Angel.
All right, okay,
Angel, we're doing a
Angel. All right,
podcast.
a little angel. Oh, what a sweet, calm
Yeah.
dog. Yeah,
Yeah, she's a cutie.
yeah,
Yeah, so I agree, and that's essentially how I feel about it now. And like I said, I'm not playing the blame game. I don't believe I'm a victim, but from observing myself, who I was a few months ago, and being deep into like the freedom teachings and this Keylontic Science movement, is that I truly feel like I lost myself. And I told you this recently as well, that I've never felt, or at least starting to feel more at peace, more grounded, more
yeah.
myself, more in like non-separation and non-judgment. Because I even remember having stupid thoughts, and I know that I had them because I remember them, where I would like, just be out in society and I would kind of just be like, subconsciously judging people like, oh, that person is Metatronic, or that person is this, and this person
Yeah,
is false light. And I could
yeah,
hear my mind saying things like that. And this is like the ego programs as well, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like the subconscious frequency that comes from these teachings. It's like to divide and
point the finger.
divide and conquer, really. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because it's separating people into groups. Like, these people are Metatronic, these people are Christic, these are Indigos, these are Aquafarion. And there's so many different groups, and we're all separated from each other. And the Earth grids are like, fucked and Metatronic. And some people will go to like Phantom Hell and never be able to ascend. I mean, like,
that
all of
sucks.
these, oh, like, yeah, it's just all of these like mental
Yeah,
mind prisons that we got put into. Like,
right.
it makes that's not how like eternal energy works. That's the king. Like, it's funny because Ashayana, like, condemns religion in her teachings, and she's paying out this and that, and like talking shit about religion, and saying that that's not what a loving God would be, and a loving God doesn't judge. But then in the same breath, she says that supposedly source, or the
Yeah,
crystal frequency and Metatronic
yeah,
people are going to fall into phantom forever and not be able to ascend and be stuck in hell. So it's like you're saying that we have a loving source, and that it's free of judgment, and that's eternal and sovereign, and then in the same breath you're saying that Metatronic people have no chance, that they're going to be condemned to a phantom earth for their entire
yeah.
existence.
You know what? My favorite one from her is, and I think I've told you before, and I love this one all the time. I always think about it, it makes me giggle. So like she'll like be totally against psychedelics, and which I understand. I mean, its
Mm-hmm.
misuse can, make you crazy, right? Whatever, and it can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But in the same sentence, she'll say, well, you can also, I mean, you can have a glass of wine and meditate, right? And that always gets me. I'm like, well, like how, like, I don't understand that, and if anyone here is watching this, please feel free to comment or whatever. Tell me, hey, yeah, I have a glass of wine and I feel like I'm reaching like the fifth dimension because I feel elevated with wine. So, like she that's one thing, she contradicts herself so much, and that inconsistency is really just it speaks loud, and it
Mm-hmm.
only happens to people who are trying to deceive, who don't, because like the truth is consistent. It is what it is, right? It's not one day this, one day that, or if, or it is what it is. So I think all that we're talking about honestly is like super obvious to me. and
Mm.
people are not seeing it, and it's like right in front of their eyes. They're reading it, they're doing it, but they're not questioning. So again, this is for you to question. People who are watching this, like, just question what you're doing. Just do that one favor, like just question. And then maybe, I mean, if it still resonates, hey, cool, then go for it, right? It's
Mm.
your free to do so. You have that free will. But that's what we're to kind of
Mm.
bring up to surface. And I think this is a great conversation, honestly. Like, and it's out of many,
Yeah.
because this goes deeper. I think last time we were talking about wing makers, right? Another branch of maybe beliefs you can say, but less like religion like, as far as like, I mean, they don't really tell you too much of what to
Less with an
believe.
agenda, and it's not
Yes,
organizational,
yes,
and it's not a business.
yes. It's not a business. That too. It's not a business. A lot of people, that I've seen, I'm not, mentioning names or anything, but I've been checking some websites this past couple weeks and this past week, and I'm like, whoa, like people are selling their service based on certain things and making money. So it's like when something is really real, you know, I, it's free, honestly. Like what I came to realize, I didn't have to spend $500 to do it, or
Mm.
to find it or to realize it, right? So,
Mm.
but again, like no judgment, but at the same time, it's just you got to discern, like do you really need to spend $700 to 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 uh to guarantee that the world doesn't get taken over by, like, demonic entities? Like, you have to really,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you
So
know what? Like, I'm just going to be real with you. Like, that's something that bothers me about spirituality these days, is that it's not getting taken seriously. It's not getting revered. It's not getting honored. It's not getting respected for what it truly is. Personally, I don't think that there's anything wrong with you having your own individual creative spiritual abilities and then offering them as a service for healing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because that's your own spirit being
yeah.
guided to heal, and money is an energy exchange. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Mhm.
you have these people that are like hosting these big meditations for grid work and this and that, and charging like ridiculous amounts of money. You have a lot of people as well within the Keylontic Science movement that have basically taken this DNA activation techniques, re-recorded it themselves or whatever, and then they sell it as a package for thousands of dollars. People who are rewriting the freedom teaching, selling. It's like, what is going on? I can't respect someone that does that. Well, for starters, the people that are selling the freedom teachings and rewriting it and making money from it, like, you need to understand that there's karmic consequences with that as well, which I truly believe there are, because
Yeah.
you're essentially, even if it is cult, false, Illuminati, MK Ultra bullshit that was spun to us by Ashayana Deane, it doesn't matter. You're still like taking someone's like time and energy that they spent on creating something, and basically just like taking it and rewriting it and trying to make it your own and making money
Yeah.
from it. Like, for me, that is sinful behavior. Like, I personally would never do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It might sound judgmental, but for me, it just feels wrong, and I just
Well,
don't.
yeah.
I just don't like it.
Well, that's first of all, that's like what is snaky mentality, because like you're making money off of something that you didn't really invent or create or think about much. And
Yeah.
you're just kind of just presenting it your way, and you're charging insane amounts for really nothing. And you're telling people they have to do it, because they have to, activate whatever, cleanse whatever. And people who are in desperate need, right, to like change their lives, and they're finding difficult
Yeah.
moments. It's
It's so
it's like,
sad.
yeah, they're being preyed upon, and they're like, yeah, you know what, like I'm having like this difficult time in my life, and can you help me? Yeah, sure. Like, just follow my, whatever, and here's $500 you have to pay, and then we can meet up, on Zoom or whatever, and then I can like just, it's like, I don't know. It's, to me, like you said, it's simple. It's horrible, actually. If you're doing that, it's, sorry, it's no judgment here, but the truth is, it's a horrible act.
Mm.
It's a horrible act.
Yeah, it just makes me sad because, there's, and once again we said that this was the intention of us, speaking out our truth and speaking out of our
Yeah.
opinions about this, because there's so many people that are waking up. There's so many people that are going through this awakening process, just like we did, just like I did years ago. And they're trying to search because they don't understand what we're talking about right now. You know what I mean? So the
Mm.
first process, as I did, as you did as well, is we go and we search externally for help. We try to discover spirituality. Like, what does it mean? What does awakening mean? What does this mean? What is all this? And there's so much information out there, but then you have like all of these predatory spiritual creators that are just in it for themselves, and they're in it for the money. And they're technically abusing these people, preying on these innocent people that technically just want to be guided, by someone who's genuine. And that's the most important thing for me now, is just to share the message and spread the message to
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
spirituality
Same
is
thing. Yeah.
simple. Like, don't even
Yeah.
call it spirituality. Don't call it anything. Like, it's free. Like, you know what I mean? We came here with all of the tools that we need to evolve. We came here with all of the tools that we need to self-realize. We are already self-aware. We are already connected to source.
Yeah.
The illusion of separation, the illusion of disconnection is something that we enforce upon ourselves. Like,
Yes. Correct.
this
Yeah.
process is free. Like, it doesn't require like techniques or never-ending healings, never-ending shadow work. It's just simple. It's just learning to be you and being in the heart, connecting to your higher mind, and just being a good person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. Finding you,
it's
you know?
simple.
Yeah. So wow. See, this is great. I think that we did an amazing job today, and just calling out deception and doing everything here. What are your final thoughts, really, with people who are viewing this right now, and kind of find themselves now like, okay, like, well, what do I do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who's going to view this. I'm not sure what people are going to say about it. I mean, I know that maybe on the Keylontic Science side of things, there's probably going to be a lot of people who are going to be judging this and, having their own opinions, and that's completely fine. But I just think that right now we are at a crucial moment in time. I mean, we are going through many shifts. We are experiencing literally the takeover of AI. I mean, like you said, it started already with Project Stargate in the US.
Yeah.
And it's coming up to a situation where, as humans, as no, not even as just as people, as spiritual
Okay.
beings,
Yeah.
as infinite beings, we need to find a way to come together and stop programming ourselves with things
Yeah.
inside of this creation, and look to yourself as an infinite being, look to yourself as a sovereign being, and maybe hone more on the frequencies of love, of groundedness, of non-judgment, and try to slowly deprogram yourself out of
Yeah.
any external beliefs, religions, deities, gods, angels. Because at the end of the day, there's no hierarchy. Everybody is
No.
equal.
Yes.
Everybody is loved. Everybody is infinite. Everybody has the capability to find themselves and connect to their soul and connect to source. Like, you don't need
Yes.
anything outside yourself. So my intention and my hope is that we become more aligned
Yes.
with each
Yes.
other, and aligned with ourselves, because that's why we're here.
Yeah. Like, don't, like, as a reminder, like, don't look to us as like like any kind of leader or like savior or like anything. Like, don't come to Stefania asking questions like, hey, should I believe in this? Should I believe in that? Like, we'll give you our perspective, definitely. But ultimately we're just like here to show like, so you can kind of like turn around and look within, and just go on your own journey, really. We're not here to like to be like, yeah, like, believe in this, believe in that, don't believe in this, like, ask yourself that question. Like, if you want to ask us the question, ask yourself that question. That's what I would tell you. But thank you so much for joining in today and making this happen. I foresee this kind of going on more beyond this
Mm,
one meeting, so we can kind of really just call out, all kinds of things that are happening, and talk
mhm,
about AI more because it is, so people can have awareness of it, but
mm,
ultimately really just help people find their infinite being within themselves, like you said. And
mm.
I hope that people watching, anyone here, to really took this and that it helped you, So, but
Yeah,
with that,
absolutely.
I will have to say my goodbyes today for today.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, thank you. And likewise as well. I mean, I know that we've been wanting to get together and chat for a while, but obviously there's been a lot going on.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, if anyone watches this video and has any comments or any ideas on perspectives that we can share and maybe even jump in with like other people as well, because I think that's also a good intention to have, is kind of to maybe get in touch with other people in the community or even outside the community that have similar perspectives, that maybe want to share their journeys, and
yes,
maybe want to
yes,
share their experience of everything, because that's essentially what it is, like it's all an experience, it's all a journey, and we're all living life differently. And I feel like the more that we connect and get to know each other on a deeper level, and just be able to be honest, open, and authentic with each other, you know what I mean? Like no bullshit, no criticism, like no bad energy, just in complete authenticity and truth of ourselves and of others, and treat each other with respect. Like I think that we can go far with that.
yes, I agree. You speak so well. Like you should like so good at this, honestly.
Oh,
But
thank
yeah.
you.
Anyway, well, thank you. Big hug to you. I know you're over there in the other side of the world. And hope everything's good. And until
Yeah.
next time, anyone has any questions or comments, you can, wherever you're watching this, whether it be YouTube or wherever you're at, just drop that comment. We're not really dropping any mentions right now. We don't have any specific pages, but it's just kind of like to spread this message. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining, and until
Thank
next
you.
time. Bye.
Bye.